Dallas Wagner. Weak points. Let's take a look, Dallas. What do we got here? So we just finished the strengths, which, this team is mostly where I want it, I would say. I'm almost positive this is year 2 of a Dynasty startup. So he's entering year 2. So that kind of, I have that extra bit of context to go off of. So again, we're not looking for ruling the world in year 2. If you did that, if you're doing that in year 2, you're probably just beating up on your local pals, which, hey, that's fine with me. But, I kind of like the slow build with the young players. And this is what, Dallas is really this is kind of like what a build for me would look like in year 2. So, again, we talked about it in the strengths, but having no QB3, it's always nice to have a third quarterback in Superflex, especially when bye weeks hit, especially, with injuries. We don't have really running quarterbacks here, but we've seen Joe Burrow get banged up a little bit over the last couple years, and Trevor Lawrence isn't afraid to run either. So just be aware of that. How to get a QB3 on this roster? I don't necessarily think you need one with this duo, but it would be nice to get a cheap Matt Ryan or something. I was talking about that a few reviews ago. Getting a Matt Ryan type piece would be a nice addition, just to make me feel warm and fuzzy inside. But you don't have to, but that would kind of be a place I'd look towards to improve. Running backs, I actually think we're good here. Again, you might want to get a little higher end depth, in a perfect world, but based on how dynasty leagues go, I don't love putting a ton of my assets into, the running back position beyond a special guy like Saquon or, a Travis Etienne or a Najee Harris or something like that. And beyond that, I mean, Fournette's a win now guy. And I think, if you had him last year, you've already gotten more out of him than you expected. He was basically worthless heading into last offseason until he took the featured role back from Ronald Jones. Remember that. It wasn't that long ago that Leonard Fournette was done. So just remember that. Rashad White, Darrell Henderson, Devin Singletary. As I said, I think that's going to be a combo that's going to be perfect for 2022. You should be fine. Tyrion Davis-Price, Ronald Jones, Eno Benjamin. This is a nice depth chart. It's just, if you really want to get into that A-, A+ range, this is where having a little more, maybe one more high end, maybe one guy with a 75 or better rating on this depth chart, that might be where, I boost up this. But this is what it's going to look like in year 2 of a Dynasty League. So I do think there's some nice upside with Singletary this year, and anything happens to Akers, Henderson, we've seen what he can do there. So, the depth here is a little, hold on, let me update this. All right. So the overall depth is okay. I really love this first 5. And again, when you have 4 or more 80+ dynasty rated players on your team, you're in a really, really good spot at the position. So we're in a really good spot here. But beyond, there is a big dip after Donovan Peoples-Jones. Chenault hasn't worked out. Washington hasn't worked out. And Velus Jones, we don't know yet. So I'd love to see one more wide receiver with fantasy relevance. Maybe you can just grind the waiver wire or something like that. Maybe get a Zay Jones. Something like, maybe get a Kendrick Bourne who's hanging out there. Something like that, Don't need to, win your league with these final roster spots. But with those 27 roster spot leagues, I do really like to have more depth. So this team does have 6 wide receivers with, the potential to start 7 every week. It's hard to see one of these guys emerging as an every week flex right now. So that's just kind of where I'm at with that. I think we can definitely improve this. And we're going to take a look in a minute about one way we can improve that. So George Kittle, again, I mentioned that's great. He has had injury issues, though, and if there are injury issues, we're going to run into some serious problems here. I mean, I don't want to start CJ Uzoma. I don't know if he's going to hang on to that starting job in New York, so I could definitely envision this being a problem for this year. It's not too hard to grab an Evan Ingram or David Njoku right now. That's kind of the path I would go with this. Grab one of those. Noah Fant as well. That would just make me feel really, really much better about this depth chart. Jake Ferguson, again, if Dalton Schultz doesn't re-sign with the Cowboys, we could see him starting next year. So just keep that in mind. But beyond that, I think we should really get, since this team is contending, we are a contender this year. So I'd want one more piece that is young. Again, I mentioned Njoku, Fant, and Evan Ingram. Getting one of those three and kind of plugging him in behind Kittle makes me feel a little better, because we don't want to just have, scrap heap if Kittle goes down. So I love this here. 49ers and Colts should be able to get you a top 5 to 7 finish at the position. And then, so what I would say here at kicker, you have 3 pretty good ones. I would say only roster 1. So my thought is maybe drop 2 of these guys. I don't care what you pick. They're all good ones. So drop 1, drop 2, add 2 extra wide receivers. That's what I would do here. So drop 2 kickers, only roster 1 at a time, and add 2 wide receiver, or maybe add, 1 wide receiver, 1 running back. So that's kind of what I would do there. Overall, I think we're in a good spot to contend this year. Every position has, some pretty high-end weapons, and we do have a high ceiling with a lot of these guys. So we're in a good spot, but there are some nits to pick and some things to aspire for. So just keep that in mind. And as I said, Dallas is a good roster, but plenty of ways to improve. So I hope to see you in the Discord, and I'll see you next time.